Lesson 6.2, Multiplying Polynomials. In this lesson we're going to use binomial expansion to expand binomial expressions and also use Pascal's triangle to expand binomial expressions. In this example we're going to expand a power of a binomial by multiplying it out. After this example we're going to use Pascal's triangle, which is a shortcut for this method right here. So we have a plus 2b, the quantity raised to the third power. That means we need to multiply out a plus 2b 3 times. So if I write this out, because it's the third power, I have to have the binomial written 3 times. I can't multiply all 3 together at the same time, so I have to multiply 2 of them. So I can multiply the first 2 together, and then when I'm done with that, I can multiply it by the third one. So it doesn't matter if you use the box method or use the distributive property in the arrows, you're going to get the same answer either way. So I like the box method. A times a is a squared. A times 2b is 2ab. 2b times a is 2ab. 2b times 2b is 4b squared. So let's let's add our like terms now. We've got a squared plus 4ab plus 4b squared. So we can go ahead and multiply that by the third piece. So we've already multiplied the first 2, now we can multiply the last one. We're going to have a times a squared is a to the third. A times 4ab is 4a squared b. A times 4b squared is 4ab squared. On the bottom row, 2b times a squared, we want to write this in alphabetical order. The reason for that is then we can identify like terms easier. 2b times 4ab is 8ab squared, and 2b times 4b squared is 8b to the third power. Now we can go through, add our like terms, and we'll get our final answer. A to the third plus 6a squared b plus 12ab squared plus 8b to the third. So that's the result when I multiply a plus 2b together 3 times. Okay, I'll go through another one of these before we move on. So we have to multiply 2x minus 1 together 3 times. Two x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times minus 1 is minus 2x. Minus 1 times 2x is minus 2x. Minus 1 times minus 1 is positive 1. Add our like terms, we get 4x squared minus 4x plus 1. And because we had 3 of these, we have to multiply it together a third time. For 2x times 4x squared is 8x to the third. 2x times minus 4x is minus 8x squared. 2x times 1 is 2x. Negative 1 times 4x squared is negative 4x squared. Negative 1 times negative 4x is 4x. Negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. Go through, add your like terms, and we end up with 8x to the third minus 12x squared plus 6x minus 1. Okay, so that was multiplying it out kind of the long way. Now we're going to use Pascal's triangle to multiply these out the short way. So in order to multiply these out, we first have to know how to get Pascal's triangle. So it starts with row 0, and row 0 is just a 1. And then in row 1, we now have two terms. It's a 1 and a 1. For the rest of this, it's a pattern. So if you know with the top row 0 and row 1, you can use the pattern to get the rest of the triangle. To get the rest of the triangle, you're going to add. So here we have 1 plus 1, and we get 2. The outside of the triangle is always 1. So we move down to row 2, we have a 1. We added the two terms above to get to 2, and then a 1. Now in row 3, there's a 1 on the outside. 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 1 is 3, and there's a 1 on the outside. Row 4, there's a 1 on the outside. 1 plus 3 is 4. 3 plus 3 is 6. 3 plus 1 is 4. And there's a 1 on the outside. So this pattern continues as far as you need to go. Now, to figure out how far you have to go, you look at the expression. If we had a plus b to the third power, we would have to go down to row 3. And we would use this to help us use a shortcut to simplify that expression. Okay, so now we want to use Pascal's triangle to expand and simplify this expression. So we have the third power, so we need to use row 3. Note that this starts with row 0 and then moves on past that. So row 3, we're going to have a 1, a 3, a 3, and a 1. That means there's going to be 4 terms. So we're going to have 1, and then we're going to start with k, and it's going to be k to the third power, and the second part, negative 5, to the 0 power. And then we're going to add. So the next coefficient here was 3, so it's going to be 3. And then we take the first term, which was k, and instead of the third power, it's going to go down by 1. And then the second term was negative 5, and we're going to raise that. We're going to go up, so it's to the first power. And then we're going to add the next term, which was another 3. And then now we have k raised to the first power, and negative 5 raised to the second power, plus now we're down to the last term, which is 1 times k to the 0 power and negative 5 to the third power. One times k to the third times negative 5 to the 0. Multiply that out to get your first term, and you're going to end up with just k to the third. And then you're going to add, we have negative 5 to the first, which is negative 5. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And then k to the second power. And then we're going to add Negative 5 squared is 25. 25 times 3 is 75. K to the first power. Negative 5 to the third power is negative 125. Negative 125 times 1 is negative 25. K to the 0 is 1. So there it is. Your final answer is k to the third. Now here I don't need the plus and negative. I can just go minus 15k squared plus 75k minus 125. So there's my final answer using the shortcut. Okay, here's the last example for the day. It's going to be just like the first one. Minor difference is in the previous one we had just k. Now we have 6m, so we have to make sure we raise both the 6 and the m to the proper power. So this example again is to the third power. If it was a different power, we go to a different row. So the row we're using is row 3. So we're going to start off with 1, and then the first term is 6m, so we have to put that in parentheses. 6m to the third power, and then multiplied by negative 8 to the 0 power. And we're going to add. The second term starts with a 3. 6m, the entire thing to the second power, times negative 8 to the first. Plus, now we're to the third term, so again it's a 3. And then we have 6m to the first power and negative 8 to the second power. Plus, last term is a 1. 6m to the 0 multiplied by negative 8 to the third power. Now you can simplify this all at once. I'm going to add in one extra step so you can see how I'm simplifying the red pieces. So we have 1 times 6 to the third times m to the third. Negative 8 to the 0 power is 1. Plus 3 times 6 squared m squared times negative 8 plus 3 times 6 to the first m to the first. Negative 8 squared is 64 plus 1 times 6m to the 0 is 1. Negative 8 to the third power is negative 512. And let's multiply it all through. 6 to the third is 216 times 1 is 216 m to the third plus 3 times 6 squared times negative 8 is going to be a negative 864 plus 3 times 6 times 64, 1152. And maybe you noticed on the previous term I missed the m squared. This term is going to have an m. The last term will just be a number, which is negative 512. Alright, that's it for this part of the lesson.